This is Geek News Central. My name is Todd Cochran, coming to you from the new media production studio designed by Automute.com in Coldwater, Michigan. The lead stories are: book a flight on SpaceX for just a cool $1 million. Amazon and Instagram are stealing Google's eyeballs. The first driverless car has had an exemption issued by the federal government. And the FCC broadband studio is missing 20 million people in its survey. I want to welcome you to episode 1423 of the Geek News Central podcast for Thursday, February 6th. The show is sponsored in part by GoDaddy.com and listeners just like you. Great deals from GoDaddy can be found at geeknewscentral.com/GoDaddy. You can support this show today at geeknewscentral.com/insider. We're live once again on geeknewscentral.com/live. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. We're on YouTube Live. We're back up tonight on live stream as well. We're on Twitch. We're on Mixer. Just about every place you can live stream, we are. I do want to apologize at the beginning of the show here for those of you watching the video portion. I failed in my duties as a host to make sure one of the IP connections was hooked up tonight. So there will be no screenshots shown. So you're just going to be looking at my ugly mug the whole show. For those of you listening, you could care less. Everyone, I want to give you a warm welcome. All those your longtime listeners and viewers of the show, thanks for being here. Thanks for being part of the family. Thanks for staying subscribed. If you're brand new to the show, this is the key here. All you got to do is go over to geeknewscentral.com, and when you're on the website, just click on your poison right on the right-hand column of the website. Subscribe to Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, Android. Subscribe on Android, Stitcher by email, or just use the standard RSS feed to add it to your favorite podcatcher. This is how you get subscribed to the show, so that way you don't miss a single episode of this podcast. Of course, you can subscribe to the newsletter on the website as well. That's a little bit further down. You can listen to this show over at blueberry.com on the directory over there, or you can use your smart home device and say the magic word to activate that device and say, play the podcast, Geek News Central. We have several chat rooms you can participate in. You can participate at geeknews.chat on our Mastodon server. You can request to be on our Slack channel, or you can also participate on Discord. If you want to be on our Slack channel, all you have to do is send me an email to geeknews@gmail.com. That's the best way to contact me from the show. This is the way you stay connected. This is how you send your complaints, your comments, or you can also fire me on Twitter at Geek News. Follow me on Facebook, of course. And of course, I don't want to forget our partner shows. These are all found at geeknewscentral.com. GNC Week in Review by Kurt Corliss, The Gadget Professor, Mr. Don Bain, the Pro Gear site written by my team at progear.guru, the New Media Show at newmediashow.com, co-hosted by myself and Mr. Rob Greenlee, and the now pod-faded Podcast Legends at podcastlegends.com. Of course, this show is sponsored by the longest-running continuous sponsor of a podcast, and that's from our good friends at GoDaddy.com. All you got to do is go over to geeknewscentral.com/GoDaddy. You're going to find all my deals over there, whether it be a $4.99.com, 30% off new products and services at GoDaddy, website builder, a 1-month free trial, or if you want to get a hosting account, and this is the best deal in the entire universe for hosting accounts, it's $1 a month for the first year, $12 to get you started, includes a free domain, either on a managed WordPress hosting site or just a regular hosting account. So get those deals, lock them in at geeknewscentral.com/GoDaddy. Share these with your friends, family members, people that you know. You know, in fact, I was talking to a gentleman today in a call, and his website was slow, really, really slow. And I said, what are you using? Where are you hosting at? And he told me, oh my goodness, it was bad. It really, really was. And so he's in the process of moving over to a GoDaddy site, get some speed built on there, build in some of their CDN features that they're using, and all's good. You know, another thing that's going on is I kept hearing a voice here in the room tonight. I didn't turn down the speaker on the recording studio on the other side. So we'll see if you guys can actually hear me loop back through the mic. I'm such a bad podcaster tonight. But hey, that doesn't change anything. We want you to support the sponsor, geeknewscentral.com/GoDaddy. Check it all out. Hey, if you're watching the show today on Facebook, make sure you say hello, check in. It is greatly appreciated. And again, we're back up on live stream for the first time in a long, long time. And I really have been kind of remiss of what's going on over there. I know that Vimeo bought them, and I've got a premium account, so I really need to look into what's going on there and basically get that all dialed back in. But let me talk just a little bit here about what's been going on. This week's been packed. I'm keeping track of almost every task I'm doing, putting that into our, basically our pay system at Blueberry and tracking my meetings. And I'm just looking at my calendar and just like, like a fish out of water. It's been a very busy, it's just never slows down. And I guess that's a good thing. But had several visitors to the studio this week. Had a gentleman come down from Kalamazoo, and we talked about some things that potentially going on here. And then had a gentleman come in from over by Detroit and talking about some K-12 stuff with schools and kids podcasting. And that was a great conversation. So I got some work cut out and getting some stuff ready for him. But other than that, it's just been head down, very, very busy. I'm preparing for Podcast Movement Evolutions. I had to turn in my presentation today, got that in. So that's all dialed in. We're ready to present at Podcast Movement Evolutions. I do have to get some gear together because we're going to live stream the new media show from Los Angeles. And so I just got to get that gear around this weekend. I'll do that probably Saturday or Sunday. And then I go to Los Angeles next week. I'm there. I leave Wednesday. I fly back on Sunday. I'm here in the studio Monday, Tuesday. And then again, I fly out Wednesday. I go to Houston. I'm down there Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Fly back on Sunday. And then I'm home for, I think, a day. Then I go back down to Columbus for a week. So got 2 more shows with this show and the next show here in the studio. Then there will be no show a week from today. So just because it's going to be impossible to do one in Los Angeles. But lots going on. So anyway, that's what's going on. But it's kind of funny. Yesterday, I was head down in the studio here, typically, or in the front office part of the studio. I keep the drapes pulled. Don't normally have those open for people to kind of peek in. And part of it's security and part of it's just, I don't want to be annoyed. But I got done with work. I was here pretty late. I think I walked out of the studio at 6 or 6:30. And when I went in, the streets were dry. And when I came out, there's like 3 inches of snow on my car. And I'm like, where did that come from? And so that was a little bit of a surprise. So we've had snow here pretty steadily for the last 24 hours. A little slippery on the road. It's nice. But tomorrow I have a visit from the Chamber of Commerce. They're coming in to take a look. We got the new meat show on Saturday. And again, this weekend, completely focused on getting my taxes ready to get that over to the accountant, which I still have in Hawaii. And other than that, that's what's going on, folks. So, hey, Chris, thanks for saying hello. And if you're watching on Facebook today, and it doesn't matter where you're at watching the show, make sure you say hello. If you're on YouTube, make a comment, or if you're on Twitter, definitely appreciate when you do that as well. And on Twitter, I know we're live in multiple places on Twitter, but just say hello. Send me an email here, geeknews@gmail.com. It's always appreciated when you do so. So let's get into the stack of stuff I have tonight. Let's see here. I guess I can close these because I can't show you any screens. I do that. So SpaceX is saying that you can get a Falcon 9 rocket ride online for as cheap as $1 million. Now, not for you. It's for a payload. So you can't go to space with SpaceX yet for $1 million. But if you want to send something to SpaceX, and I'm sure there's all kinds of bureaucratic red tape to do that, but they've activated what they call a small sat rideshare program. That's kind of funny. Rideshare programs are typically, in people ride sharing to go to work, but not this one. This program lets small satellite operators share the cost burden of a launch on Falcon 9. And last year, the cost was just over $2 million, but the site now places the prices as low as $1 million. This covers sending 440 pounds, a payload to sun synchronous orbit. That kind of orbit lets the satellite pass over the same spot on Earth about the same time every day. NASA's Earth Observing Hera satellite is an example of an SSO orbit. And of course, prices may vary with the weight and type of orbit the satellite will be delivered to. For example, SpaceX online calculator estimates a 400-kilogram satellite launch will start at $2 million. The form walks you through the various launch options and add-ons like adapters, fuel, launch insurance. SpaceX also accepts non-refundable reservation deposits online. I wonder if they take an American Express credit card. So they're going to launch an SSO mission every 4 months. And once your reservation request is approved, SpaceX will provide you with a quote-unquote welcome package. So it's just like they got this thing down to a science. It's not like go have a meeting anymore. Just go online and apply for a spot and for 440 pounds worth of, or 400 kilograms worth of satellite to put into space. And I'm sure you have to go to the government, ask permission, because, we could all pool our money together and send something to space, and it probably would not be appreciated. Especially if it was just something that was an inanimate object. So anyway, cool stuff going on there with SpaceX, $1 million. Interesting report on Android Center talking about Amazon and Instagram, how they're stealing eyeballs away from Google search. People are now searching for products directly on Amazon without using Google as an intermediary. So that's kind of dumb. It really, really is. Don't go to Amazon and search for a product first. Really, open an incognito window and search for products and services, because you're showing your card, and you may get a different price. So do some online shopping. There's more places in Amazon to buy stuff. And I was being told, oh, you can shop at Target, you shop at Walmart, and I have actually found a few things online at Walmart that were cheaper than Amazon and still got free shipping. So just don't immediately go to Amazon, because the minute you start doing that, they're going to start taking advantage of you. All right. So I always do my initial product searches first via Google in an incognito window. It seems to work out the best. I might save myself $20, $30 on a product. Will say that I had an interesting thing happen here recently. I was looking for, I was talking with Mike Dell, because I was freezing in here when it was really, really cold. And the way this building is designed, the heat is more, the furnace is in the back of the building. I sit way up in the front, and just the front room was just a little bit chilly. And Mike said, well, just get an infrared floor heater, they can put it by your desk. And he says, it's, you're going to eat some electricity, but you won't have to have the temperature turn so high to get your heat up. So I went on Amazon and I searched, or actually went on Google. I searched for the particular model he talked about. Amazon had the cheapest one, but it was a little bit higher than I was ready to spend. I think it was like $170 or something. I said, I just, it's not in the budget. So I abandoned the search. And like 3 days later, I got this email from another company that says, hey, there's a price reduction for that unit you were searching for. It's $97 now. And I was like, what? $97? Well, maybe I can do that. So obviously I'm being marketed to. It turns out it's a third-party company that Amazon owns. So they're email marketing to me. And I'd never heard of them before. And to be honest with you, I can't remember the name of it right now. But anyway, I clicked through. And here was the trick. I looked at the unit that they were offering to me that was supposedly the one I had searched for on Amazon, and it was not the same model. It was a lower price model, not as many features, less BTUs or whatever it is that you have per amount of a heat capacity. And I'm like, you little dirty dogs, you've basically almost got me, because I went, oh, wow, $97. I clicked on it. I went through the first couple of steps, and then I'm like, let me go back to Amazon and look at that unit. And I had actually saved the original unit in my cart and added it as a wish list thing. I didn't check out. And I went and did the cross check, and sure enough, different model. Well, I took the model number for the one that they had advertised to me at $97 and did the actual search on Amazon, and it was cheaper. It was cheaper than the one I got the email from. So I just basically canceled all the orders and said, screw this. I'm not going to be taken advantage of. But they almost got me. It was really, really close. So, Google search revenues aren't growing as fast as they used to. And analysts are basically saying that market saturation, slow bleed of customers as the cause. And half of all product searches, for example, now originate on Amazon, sidestepping Google. And, used to be that Google was a Swiss Army knife of the internet. And you want to buy a new refrigerator, you ask Google. Want to plan your next trip to the Bahamas, you ask Google. But now, not so much. But again, I'm being very, very cautious of you here when you're doing searches like this to shop around a little bit. Just don't think Amazon is going to be your best deal. The federal government has just issued its first driverless car exemption. Nuro, I don't know if we talked about this company in the past or not, is the first to nab the coveted, what they call the FMVSS exemption from the U.S. Department of Transportation. And what that is the federal motor vehicle safety standards require a car to have a basic human controls like steering wheels, pedals, side view mirrors, and so on. These standards specify how vehicles must be designed before they can be sold. If a proposed new vehicle doesn't comply with all existing FMVSS, manufacturers can apply for exemption. But the government is only allowed to grant 2,500 exemptions per company per year. But what's interesting here is regulators haven't granted any exemptions for autonomous vehicles until today. Nuro said it's first, which allows it to begin operating its driverless delivery vehicles on public roads with regulatory certainty. So in order for them to grant this exemption, the process required them to conclude that the vehicle itself is at least as safe as one that would be required to meet the standards. That doesn't mean that they look at the whole vehicle, but what it means is they say when a Nuro removes the mirrors and doesn't have the windshield and doesn't have the backup camera, we conclude the vehicle itself will be at least as safe as if it did have these things. Now, this isn't meaning that they are going to be able to put this thing on the road right now. They have to go through some additional hoops here, but at least they've been able to get this exemption, which is pretty interesting. So we're making a good time here, and I think it's good. Got to reply to something here. My son is asking me for a password. I'm like, you're going to have to wait. So anyway, interesting exception that's been issued there. Right, the next thing up is, according to The Verge, the FCC's broadband survey is missing 20 million people. And the Broadband Now says that close to 42 million people don't have high-speed internet access. This report estimates 42.8 million in the United States do not have broadband access, nearly twice the official estimate reached by the FCC. Again, this report was conducted by Broadband Now that helps consumers check their areas for broadband availability, and the FCC only said that 21.3 million lack broadband access. Broadband Now chose 9 ISPs, which it didn't name in the report. They had tools that allowed users to enter an address and receive a response as to whether wired and or fixed wireless service is available. The ISP's own tools showed the service was not available for some 13% of the more than 11,000 addresses Broadband Now used in its sample. So the reason for this discrepancy, according to the Broadband Now, is the way the FCC interprets census data. If an ISP provides service to at least one household in a census block, the FCC considers the whole census block is covered by that ISP. A census block can include anywhere from 1,000 to 8,000 people, with an average of about 4,000. The agency revised the reporting rules for Form 477, but it's not clear when its information on broadband access will be updated. So this should not come as a surprise. There are so many people without broadband access. It's insane. Hey, Bob, how are you? Thanks for being on the show. If you're watching the show on Facebook, make sure you say hello. We're on YouTube. Please check in, say hi. So anyway, I don't think this has come as a surprise to anyone that lives in rural America, knowing that broadband speeds are just suck. As an example, when I'm in my loft, I can watch YouTube TV, but I can't really do much anything else. So I have to stop YouTube TV, and then if I want to do something, just like do an upload, or it's really, really, really bad. And it's just because I have 15 megs down and an average about 2 megs up. It's really pretty horrendous, and I pay $90 a month for the privilege of having that slow internet speed. But it is a little bit better than my mobile phone, and trying to tether it and running out of bandwidth. Of course, we have unlimited bandwidth, right? Ha ha ha. Record-setting space travelers return to Earth. A trio of space travelers returned to Earth this morning from the International Space Station, including NASA's astronaut Christina Koch, who set a record for the longest single spaceflight by a woman at 326 straight days. Also coming home was ESA astronaut Luca Parmitano, who now has spent a total of 367 days in space in 2 missions, more days than any ESA astronaut in history. Of course, the crew of Expedition 61 also included Russian cosmonaut and Soyuz commander Alexander Kurgatsov, I destroyed that, who completed his 3rd mission for a total of 546 days in space, putting him in 15th on the all-time in-space list. And they landed in Kazakhstan at 4:12 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, southwest of the remote town of Dezhezhan, Kazakhstan. So, congratulations, and nice to see that they made it back safe. SpaceX is holding a career day. They're calling it a Starship Career Day to ramp up its Mars colonization effort. So this is kind of interesting. SpaceX wants to put the pedal to the metal on its Starship Mars colonization system. So, it's already too late. But the company hosted a Starship Career Day today at its facility near South Texas village of Boca Chica, where the big spacecraft is coming together. They're looking for staffing of 4 production shifts for 24/7 operations, but they're also looking for engineers, supervisors, and support personnel are certainly needed too. They say that Elon Musk says we need a super hardcore work ethic, talent for building things, common sense, and trustworthiness are required. The rest we can train. What he said via Twitter. But I'm going to be honest with you. If you are in Texas and you are near this production facility and you need a job, I'm telling you, I think it'd be a fun place to work. And if you've got any skills whatsoever, you might make some good changes as well. If nothing else, they could, you might end up bending metal and putting a spacecraft together. So very, very cool stuff that's coming, and they're ramping up their workforce out there. And Texas is a great state to work in too, because there's no state income tax. Now, if you own property or anything you buy, pretty good sales tax and pretty good property taxes. So if you rent and live meagerly, you're going to cash in and keep a lot of your paycheck, that as compared to other states where they take state income tax. Right. Of course, the president honored the Tuskegee Airmen, and NASA has also honored the Tuskegee Airmen. So Brigadier General Charles McGee, who served in the Second World War, the Korean War, and Vietnam War, and spoke in front of a packed auditorium about his experience in the Air Force as one of the first African-American military pilots to serve in combat. And he talks about the plus and minuses of serving during that time. Of course, World War II, lots of discrimination still happening. and he talks about that period. So I'd like to rewatch this streaming session that was happening at NASA. Very exciting stuff to hear the stories of these men. We don't have a lot of World War II vets left. He's 100 years old. So I think that them capturing this history is really, really, really small. Hey, Paul, how you doing? Thanks for saying hi in the Facebook chat. So website owners like me are starting to worry about ad blocking. I know many of you have ad blocking turned on when you come to geeknewscentral.com. I see it in the stats, and many of you are now adding ad blocking on your mobile phones. So I'm hoping when you come to the website, I hope that you unblock Geek News Central, because we really only have like 2 ads on the website, my GoDaddy banner and something for Blueberry. So I'm not tracking you or anything like that. We're not reporting back to Amazon, but anytime that you can click through and pick up a product from a sponsor is always good. But anyway, ad blocking is taking off. About 15 to 30% of website is from people with ad blocking software on mobile phones now. So mobile phones are taking up the mantra, and because not as many people are surfing the internet through their desktop. I must be one of the last holdouts. I just don't. I don't know. I have a great iPhone. I don't go to websites on my only when I'm not at the office. If I don't have my laptop available or something, that's when I use my mobile device to load websites. But I know many of you are strictly on tablets and so forth, and I understand that. But ad blocking is peaking, and it's going to continue to peak for mobile devices. On desktop, it already has. It has already peaked. Interesting story about Engadget talking about Alphabet's Loon, Loon, turn a stratospheric aircraft into an internet drone. So Alphabet Loon, of course, they've been known for their balloons, but it worked on an entirely balloonless project as part of its partnership with SoftBank. The two formed a long-term strategic relationship in April of 2019. Apps Mobile investing $225 million in Alphabet Company. Now the partners have announced that they successfully designed, developed the communication payload for the HAPS Mobile solar-powered stratospheric unmanned aircraft system, the Hawk 30. And we remember we talked about the Hawk 30 in the past, and so basically they adapted it so that it could be flown with with the wind pressure against the antennas and so forth. So this is a way for them to extend mobile communications or internet with millimeter communications, because they have direct line of sight. So very, very interesting what they're doing here. Because remember, on millimeter wave, you have to have line of sight to the receiving antenna for it to really work for millimeter wave to be effective. So you can't do that on the ground, but you can do that at 50,000 feet. You see a long ways line of sight. Many of you are forced to use a VPN through your work. Many of you have never used a VPN. So what is a VPN and why do you need one? Got a great article from Android Central on that. I'll have that link up in the show notes for you to take a peek. But of course, a VPN is a clever way of masking your identity online. And you travel overseas. It's also a good way to get around blocks for certain access to certain sites. Even banks sometimes will block a out of the country IP from connecting to it because they know they don't have any customers in, let's say, Japan. So if you have a VPN, you can connect to a US based server and then be able to log into your bank and so forth. But anyway, good information on VPNs in this article. All right, many of you watched the Iowa caucuses. I think that was on the night that we did the show here. I went back to the house and went to bed and heard about the fracas the next morning. But there's a good article from CNET that talks about the app that broke the Iowa caucuses, and someone has gotten a copy of it, or actually was able to load the app. Now, apps like that are often given out to specific people. You have to provide an email address, and you're whitelisted to be able to get the app, but this security firm was able to get access to it really simply, I guess. And they're diagnosing why the app failed, but they found several issues with the code, including links to people's personal websites from it. So, what were those? What were those links for? Was it calling home to mama or whatever? But their biggest concern with the app was so easy to obtain. And but anyway, very good interview and more insight into Shadow Inc.'s app. It's an interesting company name, right? Shadow Inc. Would you want to be called Shadow? Is that the company name you would want if you were running an election campaign app? To me, that sounds concerning. But there is some rumors out there who that company is behind and who paid for it. And anyway, Iowa caucuses are, I guess, 91% results in at this point. I don't know. That's what I saw from a news flash that came across my phone. But boy, oh boy, isn't it easier just to let people vote? The Boeing 737, well, they found another software bug on the 737 MAX. Apparently, this glitch, they're calling it a glitch, involves an indicator light for the stabilizer trim system that helps raise and lower the plane's nose. Now, on a trim system, what it is it's literally, maybe not in modern aircraft. I don't know if the 737 has this, but I'm sure they do. It's a wheel that basically sets to the right of the pilot's leg or to the left of the co-pilot's leg, and you can actually, the wheel goes up and the wheel goes, basically you can roll it clockwise or counterclockwise. And what it does is it trims the airplane. So what we used to do as a trick in the P3s is we would casually get 25 guys in the back of the airplane, and the pilot would have had to have trimmed it because the airplane's weight had changed. So, the airplane wants to pitch up. So the pilot, basically trims the airplane so it stays level. And then the 30 of us would run, or 20 of us would run from the back of the airplane to the cockpit, and the pilot would have to be retrimming the airplane because the airplane would want to tip over. Stupid P3 crewman trick, right? And you would annoy, if you had a pilot you wanted to annoy, you'd do that 4 or 5 times, and then he would either yell at you over the ICS or the intercom system, or there would be scoldings happening. Anyway, so it's just a little fun. But anyway, this is really a kind of an important function. So this glitch involves an indicator light for the stabilizer trim system, which helps raise and lower the plane's nose. The light wasn't turning on when it wasn't supposed to. Boeing is already solving the problem, and it still expects the 737 MAX to resume flying by mid-2020. So this is the third software flaw to be discovered. Now, pilots can feel an aircraft's pitch change through their butt. You can feel an airplane, when you are trimmed out and you're level, and they can take their hands off the yoke, and the airplane will essentially stay straight. You don't have to be pulling or pushing. And as fuel is burned off, the pitch of the aircraft's going to change a little bit, and the aircraft typically automatically trims itself so it stays in the right flight configuration. And but you can feel the airplane pitch over when it's not supposed to. They're sitting up there in the seat, and all of a sudden the airplane starts to nose over a little bit. So they can use the trim button on the yoke, or they can reach over and spin the wheel. And this is, every aircraft that I know of has a trim wheel, or a trim control. So, yeah, and again, I'm sure this is some sort of safety light, but still, all these systems in airplanes are designed to make sure that it helps you not make mistakes. Warn you. Okay, it warns you when the gear's not down. It warns you when you're too low. It warns you when you're going too fast in a descent. All these things. But in reality, the pilot is supposed to know this stuff and not have those warnings appear, and basically supposed to be in control of the aircraft at all times. No matter if the aircraft pitching up and down, they don't need an idiot light. And this is what we commonly refer to many of these lights as an idiot light, saying, "Hey, idiot, you've got a problem." Now, I know that, Jack, I know you're laughing, but it's true. Some of these lights are idiot lights. And you don't want that idiot light to come on. Or if you do, you're already in control. You know what's going on. So we have to, I think part of the problem we're having now, and I might be wrong here, and let's not just pick on the 737 MAX, but we have an aging pilot corps, and they're going to time out for age. They want to work, but the FAA only allows pilots to fly to a certain age, and they're done. They can't fly commercially anymore, and it's just the way the game is. And so what you have is you have this huge demand for pilots right now, and not a lot of people coming out of the military. A lot of guys that are in the military that have 700, 1,200, 3,000, 5,000 hours of experience. When they come out, they're getting sucked right up. They're going to go right to airlines immediately. But the forces are smaller. There's not as many active duty guys coming out and entering, the pilot pipeline in the airlines. But there's still this huge shortage of pilots. So you have people like my brother-in-law's son. He wants to be a pilot. He's studying to become a pilot. He's going to, this summer, he's going to start getting a pilot's license and going through the process. He's going to an aviation school. And, probably in 5 or 6 years, if he achieves his goals, he's going to be in the right-hand seat of some commuter bouncing around, getting his hours in, putting his time in. And a couple of years later, he'll start upgrading into, if he gets his tickets punched, he needs to, he'll start upgrading into more sophisticated airplanes, but still relatively low hours. So they're bringing pilots into the system now, and they're getting into the aircraft a lot sooner. And it just, even though I was a back end guy in P3s, there's just a certain amount of time you need to kind of get enough experience where you're not going to kill people, and, flying is one thing, but having that sense of safety and knowing what's going to happen and be able to recover from stalls and all the multitudes of things when you're crabbing and you got a 25 knot the side wind coming in and you're trying to land an airplane and all this stuff that happens that pilots only learn from countless hours of experience. We got a lot of young pilots coming into airplanes. So they need a lot of these idiot lights. I hate to say it that way, but they got to pay attention to them. And if the software is wrong, this is how people get killed. So anyway, enough on me talking about airplanes. I'm sure Jack is going to correct me a few places here, but I really think that's a big part of it. There's just a huge, and you've got a kid that wants a lifetime job at this point, and he's got some, he's good with cool under pressure. He can, follow directions. He's process oriented. This is what pilots have to do. It's repetitive, process oriented stuff they have to do from a safety standpoint. There's a great career to be had. Plenty of jobs for pilots. And you might as well go and become a pilot. That's, after a couple of years, you have to put your dues in, but after a couple of years, you make the big bucks. And pilots do very, very well financially. And they get to travel the world and have a girlfriend at every, I'm just kidding. But anyway, it's a pretty good lifestyle. Amazon has detailed huge expansion plans for Bellevue, Washington. The company says it will bring more than 15,000 employees to the city in the coming years. So it's already Amazon territory. It's going to get more intense. I wish I had screen sharing up tonight. Sorry that I don't, but there's a new museum display. It's in San Francisco's Asian Art Museum. Artist Gene Shin used e-waste from the Bay Area, a leading tech hub, to design a sort of Zen rock garden that's made up of cell phones. And they used 3,000 Razors, Palm Pilots, iPhones, slider phones, and many other models from the past 20 years. It's a sculpture that the biggest sculpture, 7.5 feet tall, and it's kind of cool. It looks pretty interesting, and I'm sure she's going to sell a bunch of this art. It's a true geeky fashion. I find myself semi mesmerized by this, and the link will be up in the show notes for you to check out. Of course, everyone's asking about 5G. Is it dangerous or is it safe? And I think here's the thing. It's like anything else. You know, the millimeter wave operating at 28 gigahertz. It is what it is, and it does require, as I've said many times already, and show a lot of directionality. And the really difference between 5G and the rest of is really the frequencies that they're operating at. And some 5G stuff is down in the 2.8 to 3.2 gigahertz range. But we'll see what happens with this. But just don't always have your phone to your ear. Go on Bluetooth. If you don't have to have the phone in your pocket, set it away from you. Just like anything else. It's the amount of exposure and how close you are to the actual, because it's transmitting, and you don't want that necessarily next to your head, in my opinion. All right, the first supermoon 2020 is coming this weekend. Set up your telescopes. So according to NASA, the moon will be completely full on Sunday at 2:33 a.m. Eastern, but will appear full all weekend from about Friday evening to Monday morning. Because it's February, this particular supermoon is also called the snow moon. Other names for it include the storm moon, hunger moon, and Chinese lantern festival moon. So a big full moon for you here over the weekend. The FCC has reached a deal with satellite industry to free up more 5G spectrum. The C-band spectrum is seen critical as deployment of 5G. So they've been working with satellite providers and they're trying to free up a spectrum in the, what is the frequency, from 3.7 to 4.2 gigahertz. And that's considered mid-band spectrum. So they're doing some sort of deal with some of the satellite providers that own that spectrum right now, and multi-billions of dollars are going to be changing hands to turn that over to the mobile providers. Moving on here, Google Play apps with 470,000 installs can log into your Facebook and Google accounts. A smorgasbord of activities, including bank fraud, theft of personal data, and ransomware. So they have documented 2 new malware campaigns targeting Android devices. And the first involved 9 apps that have been downloaded from Google Play with names such as Speed Clean, Super Clean. The apps estimated as utilities for optimizing device performance. Behind the scenes, they connected servers that could download as many as 3,000 different malware variants on comprised devices. Once installed, the apps could log into the user's Facebook and Google accounts for bad ad fraud. A second unrelated campaign used cleverly crafted phishing emails to trick users into installing one of the nastiest piece of malware targeting the Android OS. So once again, be careful what you're installing from the Google Play Store, all right? The link will be up in the show notes. Is there a list? Yeah, there's a list of the apps. Super Clean Light, Super Clean Phone Booster, Quick Games, Rocket Cleaner Light, Speed Clean Phone Booster Junk Cleaner app, Link World VPN, H5 Game Box. So all of these had huge number of installs full of malware, and Google has removed the apps from Play Store as of this time. SpaceX is planning to spin off an IPO for Starlink broadband division. Of course, we know this was probably going to happen, and I'm excited about this business. This has the biggest opportunity to bring high-speed broadband to rural America. I don't know what cost it's going to be, but we will see where this goes. Starlink is expected to bring revenues of $30 billion a year, about 10 times the highest annual revenue expects from the core rocket business. So, of course, we know that Starlink has been approved to launch 11,943 broadband satellites, and they're seeking permission to increase that to as many as 30,000. And we know that SpaceX plans to offer broadband service part of the U.S. later this year, and it's largely the South. Those of you in Hurricane Alley, you're going to get this first. They're definitely targeting the southern part of the United States. to bring communications and internet to folks that are in these areas that are affected by these big storms. All right, the U.S. Air Force is to pilot a blockchain-based database for data sharing. The blockchain ledger will enable data ingest from legacy data systems and wikis, as well as a native web application build platform. Anyway, if you're into blockchain, you're definitely going to want to check this out. Lots of cool little arrows and marks and how this all works. And they're going to try to use blockchain-based security to power an entire application. And the Air Force is taking this on with a little company that scored big. I think that where they at? They say they were out of a Winston-Salem, North Carolina startup called Flurry TBC. So congratulations to them. The United States has opened an investigation into Google amid the Sonos patent suit. Sonos has continued to press Google for alleged violating its patents, and it's been announced the U.S. International Trade Commission announced it voted to investigate whether Google and its parent company Alphabet have imported patent-infringing products into the country. To be clear, this doesn't mean the U.S. government has decided Google has violated Sonos patents, but whether or not those patents were violated should fall under the scope of this investigation. The U.S. ITC opened this investigation as a result of a complaint by Sonos and that Google violated Section 337 of Tariff Act of 1930 by importing and selling products infringing on the company's patents. So ITC has 45 days to determine if this is the real deal, and then we'll see what happens. Netflix will now let you disable its awful autoplaying feature that happens when you're on your iPad or desktop. So this is now a feature you can shut off, so you can disable the autoplay function. Awesome. More news from Netflix here in a minute. I should have had those grouped up together. This is interesting. The Attorney General thinks the United States should buy controlling stake in Nokia and Ericsson. And the reason why is it says that Huawei is playing a big role globally in building out 5G networks. And they feel that the only way to really protect national security is if Nokia and Ericsson, or the two competing companies, are basically propped up. And so that's interesting that they think the U.S. should work with companies to take a controlling stake through a consortium of private American and allied companies to make sure that Ericsson and Nokia don't fail so that they compete with Huawei in the 5G market. Pretty sad when a U.S. with no companies can compete with Huawei on their own. Uber expects to be profitable by the end of 2020. Oh, we'll see if that happens. They've been burning so much money. 2019, Uber lost a whopping $8.5 billion through nearly half of the $4.6 billion included stock-based compensation expenses related to the company's IPO. Meanwhile, both trips and gross booking increased by just over 30%. In 2018, the company's revenue reached $14.1 billion. So they expect to become profitable. So we'll see. I don't know. Do you guys watch the Oscars? I don't. But Google's launched a hub for the 2020 Oscars. And where's that located? How to find Google's 2020 Oscar hub. Well, anyway, it's in the show notes, and there's a link too. So if you're interested in Oscars and more information on that, feel free to check it out. iOS 13.4 could turn your iPhone and Apple Watch into car keys. This is the software's first beta, contains details on car key API. And that's kind of cool. I would love to be able to just get rid of my car key completely. If I could have that in my phone, that would be awesome. When is this going to happen? So it basically says car key API will let you use your devices as keys for your vehicles with NFC. Based on the internal file the publication saw, you don't even have to authenticate with Face ID. You simply have to hold your device near the reader to work, even if it's out of battery power. In addition, the feature seems to have the capability to give other people access to your vehicle with their devices. Whoa. You'll have to send that trusted family member or friend an invite, which you'll be able to do so via the Wallet app. The pairing process actually starts with Apple Wallet app, though you'll also need to have your automaker's app to finish setting up when you link a device with a car for the first time. When you place your device on top of the NFC reader, a car key will show up in your wallet app. You can then add that key to an Apple Watch. This is not a new concept. We'll see if this takes off. If Apple can do it, anybody can. Google Maps has turned 15, gets a fresh design and some new features. So they got a new icon for Maps. The updated Google Maps will, with the new look, will begin rolling out both on iOS and Android today. So be aware of that. It's forthcoming. As I said earlier, there was a little more news from Netflix. Netflix begins streaming the data-saving AV1 videos on Android. It's going to be available for select titles if you want to save data. Hey, Mike, thanks for checking in on the live stream. Definitely appreciate it. Also, Twitter reports 1.01 billion in quarter four revenue with 152 monetized. This is a new term. Instead of 152 million users, they're using the word monetizable daily active users. So there's 152 million of us that are monetizable daily active users on Twitter. How do you like being referred to as a monetizable daily active user? That's kind of cool. Let's see if I can come up with a new term for podcasting. So 168,000 of monetizable podcast listener. Oh, it doesn't sound as good, does it? Twitter doesn't want to call its users. So anyway, there's the news. Hey, Chrome's ad block will expand to target disruptive video ads. This is an article that was written by our very own Jen Thorpe on geeknewscentral.com. So today, the group responsible for developing a better ad standards, the Coalition for Better Ads, announced a new set of standards for ads that's showing during video content based on research from about 45,000 consumers worldwide. Coalition found that 3 ad experiences people find to be particularly disruptive on video content that is less than 8 minutes long. They include long, non-skippable pre-roll ads or group of ads longer than 31 seconds that appear before a video. They cannot be skipped within the first 5 seconds. Mid-roll ads of any duration that appear in the middle of a video, interrupting user experience, and image or text ads that appear at the top of a playing video and are in the middle, 1/3 of the video playing window, or cover more than 20% of the video content, and they're going to start blocking that. That's a beautiful thing. Huawei has sued Verizon for alleged patent violations, of course. So it's making the latest switch in Chinese tech giants' adversarial relationship with the U.S. They basically said that Verizon is using 12 patents owned by Huawei without authorization. Of course, they filed this in the Eastern and Western Districts Court in Texas that is more favorable to people on patent infringement. And also, if you want to know how to block websites in Chrome on your Android phone, you can do that. There is a link in the show notes on how to make that happen. And finally, for those of you that have a Pixel phone, Google's begun rolling out automatic call screening to all Pixel phones. All right, that's going to bring me to the end of the content. Good run here of stuff. Great amount of great content. And I got an email from Rob. He says, wow, I recall you quoting someone about buying Tesla stock. Now it's almost up 20%, and I believe it's expected to climb more. And then he sent me an email a little bit later and says, well, maybe not. So Tesla stock is Tesla stock up? But that stock tip came from Andy Brown. I also got an email from Michael that said, Todd, showing some love by sharing show comments. Showing you some love by sharing show comments. I am sure we'd all share more if we could stop what we're doing at the time and jot down notes. And as the days go by between shows, the topic might be a bit stale. I did want to share that CBS is showing the pilot for Picard Star Trek on YouTube. Yep, we know that. In its entirety, it's worth a look. I enjoyed seeing Next Generation timeline 30 years later with occasional special guests and nostalgic glances. I finally watched all of The Mandalorian. I haven't watched the rest of it yet. I'm behind on those. I signed up for Disney Multipack streaming offering Disney Plus, Hulu with commercials, and ESPN. Hulu with commercials were so bad, I canceled the bundle. Too many repetitive commercials and all at a higher volume than the desired content. And like you, I don't watch sports other than the occasional Super Bowl. Love the Doritos commercial with Sam Elliott and all the women at the watching party both groaned and laughed at the Jason Momoa commercial where he took off his muscles. Yeah, that was a good one. I must, that was kind of funny. Budweiser commercial were lame as compared to past years. I had texted you about my experience with Google Assistant where it kind of showed attitude and creeped me out a little bit. I used to be able to ask the age of famous people, but over the last couple of months, it keeps wanting me to go to my phone for some reason. So this time, after it started giving me grief, I said Google, just give me the answer. It responded with, well, maybe if you ask me a different way. So he said, so quickly I said, how long has Kelsey Grammer been on this planet? The answer came back, Kelsey Grammer is 64 years old. So as always, keep up the good work, Michael. Michael, I asked Google the same question about me, and they had no idea. I even told it to remember how old I was, and it didn't help. So that commercial they had on Google about where you're supposed to, remember this, that was during the Super Bowl, it didn't work. There must be some trick to do that, or maybe that's a feature coming. I don't know. But I told Google to remember this. It didn't remember. So who knows? Maybe that's a future thing that's coming. I thought it was pretty cool, though. Let's be frank. If you are trying to create a history of something and you have a picture that is shown on the page and you make a comment, remember this, and that later can be shared with family members in later generations, that is something that the ancestry.coms of the world should do. That's, that was so innovative. I thought that's one thing I kind of liked what Google was doing. You're basically you're telling it to remember certain things, and maybe people with Alzheimer's or something like that, or forthcoming Alzheimer's, that they're an Alzheimer's candidate. I think some of that is pretty remarkable. So we'll see where this technology goes. But Michael, thank you for your email. And of course, Rob and Michael and Richard and the folks have been sending emails lately. It's greatly appreciated here. Hey, James, thanks for checking in on Facebook. We do appreciate it. If you've been on YouTube as well, watching the show tonight, which a number of you are, thanks for being here. Hi, MidPro 3030. Thank you for checking in on YouTube. But anyway, we're going to get out of here. We're going to bounce, and definitely appreciate it. I am trying tonight. We'll see how the bandwidth did, because I am running again on live stream tonight. So I got 3 active streams going, and so far it's held its own. It appears. I'll go back and look at video quality later. But I have been annoyed because I've been hearing myself speak in the other room, coming in a little bit delayed. Hopefully that didn't feed through the mic here at all. If you hear mumbling in tonight's show, it's my distinct apology that I didn't turn that speaker down before we started. All right, so let's get out of here. Be back with you on Monday. Don't forget about the sponsors. And hey, if you feel so inclined, geeknewscentral.com/insider. $2 a month is 6.7 cents a day. And I hope I'm giving you enough value to come in at $2, $5, $10, $15, $20, or $25 a month, or consider a one-time donation to the show. All that can be done via geeknewscentral.com/insider. It's not tax deductible, sadly. We're not a nonprofit. This is a for-profit business. And so it is a true donation, and I do pay taxes on that as well. So, but every dime that comes in, we turn that back around into the salaries and not salaries, but the contract costs for the pre-production of this show and the writers on the website. We definitely eat every donation up and then some. So definitely appreciate your ongoing support of the show and the website. And of course, our sponsor, GoDaddy. Make sure you tell your friends, family members, people that you know about GoDaddy and my promo codes. That's how we keep GoDaddy happy, keep them sponsoring the show. But anyway, if you're so inclined, I'll be on New Media Show here at newmediashow.com, 12 o'clock Eastern on Saturday. And I'll be back with you Monday night for a show here on the Central Podcast. Everyone, thanks for being here. We'll see you next time. Everyone, take care. Aloha.